All right, so we are in week 4 of our series on So You Want Change. I am Reverend Amani Malaika. I am so glad you are here, and I am with you wherever you are watching across space and time. Thank you. So if you missed the previous video sermons in this series, I really encourage you to go back. But this week, you and I are going to be working with what I think is the toughest part of manifesting, which is getting the crap out of the way. What are the barriers? What's the stuff, the shiznit that is actually disturbing your ability to be a vibrational match for what it is that you really want? And I want to share with you a quote from Stephen Nachmanovich in his book Free Play. He says, "The work of creativity is not a matter of making the material come, but of unblocking the obstacles to its natural flow." When we are trying to create change and use the spiritual power of creative process, the only thing really that is ours to do is get whatever is in the way of the natural flow of good out of the way. And it's tricky, really tricky, because doing this part of the work, I think Dino already spoke to it in the last, I don't know, week 3 or week 2, I can't remember. But getting in the willingness to see and discern what is in the way, and often what is in the way are those negative thought loops, right? Is the amount of time we spend on misbelief and false narratives and negative self-talk and focusing on what's gone wrong out in the world, right? And what's tough about that is that part of the negative loop that is the beat yourself up, right? And this is really tricky in metaphysics and the law of attraction, and all of this work is you can use it to blame yourself and beat yourself up for having a bad vibe, right? And people can hurt each other with this idea. Well, how did you manifest that? What's going on in your consciousness? Which is a really crappy thing to say, and never let it come out of your mouth. And if you're thinking it, that's probably yours to clean up. So it's tricky. But one of the things that I want us to practice and to consider, and doing it so that we get the information, but we do not get the self-judgment and self-recrimination. That's the tricky part. Is getting the information like, what am I likely really believing about what's possible? What am I likely telling myself, maybe even unconsciously, about what's good, my good, what I can have, what I can't have, what I'm worthy of? So you can get that information and then get it out of the way. It is not for the purpose of going, oh my God, I suck so bad, I have horrible beliefs and I don't believe I'm worthy, and That is not the purpose of this part of the work. And it's tricky. And this is one of the places where I highly recommend not doing it alone. Get a prayer partner, work with a practitioner, so that you don't find yourself looping and beating yourself up when you discover what's in the way. As you discover what's in the way, right? So one of the ways that you can do this discovery work, and it's not always easy, and it can be really eye-opening, and that's why I'm saying please have so much grace for yourself, so much kindness, is you work the law, you work the creative process backwards, right? I said in week 1 that the creative process is seed, soil, plant. It is the idea in the mind of God that goes into the body of God, the formless substance of the one that then moves itself into form as creation. And that same exact process is happening in you and I. You and I have a belief, a thought, and I say belief because some people think it's as simple as I'm going to think this thing and it's all good. It's really about what you are deeply convicted around in your thinking, which is beliefs, right? What you really believe is possible. What you really believe could materialize for you. So that belief planted in the soul of you, planted into the law of God, the formless substance of the one moves into form, right? That's the super basic thing. And June will talk a little bit more about quantum physics and leaps, but we're going to keep it basic this month. So following that process, you can also follow that process back up, right? You know, I do that all the time in my garden. Things show up in my garden that I did not plant. Anybody have that experience? You're like, well, where did you come from, friend? What are you? Got the app on my phone, got to take a picture because I don't even know what it is. And I don't know how you got, how'd you get here? Oh, that's right, I had a packet of seeds in my pocket that day and a whole bunch fell out. Thank you, lettuce. Not where I'm meant for you to be, but here you are, right? So that is sometimes the nature. We look at a circumstance in our life and we're like, how did this come to be? I don't remember putting that on my vision board, right? I don't remember this, how did that come to be? What belief may I have planted unconsciously most often that could have led to this outcome? And I'm saying this as a tool. Again, not as a way to blame yourself, because some things end up in my garden because a bird has decided to poop a seed somewhere, right? Some things end up in my garden because squirrels, and I actually really love, the squirrels are planting some awesome things for me lately. I have an apple tree coming up. I've got lilies where I didn't have lilies, and the squirrels are planting all of that as they dig up my garden. So it's not, I didn't put them. I really had nothing to do with it. The squirrels did it. But they're in my garden, and I get to determine what I want to do with these things. But taking the time to go, I have this circumstance in my life, not enjoying it. Let's talk money, for instance. It's a big one. People like to bring into metaphysics, right? Prosperity. So I am having this experience of, I get to the end of the month and my month is longer than my money. How has this arrived in my garden? I now get to consider, okay, if I go back and look at maybe what got planted in the mind of God, what I maybe planted or inherited often, what belief could be leading to this experience of not enough? And so I ponder, I journal, I write, I think about how did this pattern often, right, are the places that you really want change. The things that you've tried to change and haven't changed as easily, and maybe those are the things that are tough. And you might use this process. And so I ponder, I meditate on it, I contemplate. Where did this begin in my belief? And lo and behold, I look back and I look at, oh, wow. This has been my experience as a kid too. My parents had this experience too. A lot of the people I know have this experience. I, somewhere along the line, decided that there wasn't enough. And that was the common experience. So, if everybody's having a not enough, then why wouldn't I be having not enough? So I could go back and discover, what's the misbelief that is contributing to this outcome? And then becomes the work of getting it out of the way. And you know what's beautiful? Getting these misbeliefs out of the way, they have to be acknowledged. They have to be discovered. You need the information. And again, not for the purpose, I'm not blaming my parents. I am not blaming society. I am not using this for the purpose of blaming, because I could spend a lot of time just hanging out like, they suck. I can't believe I've inherited this thing. Now I have to undo it. Super not useful. Like I could maybe give it 60 seconds. I could pout it out but at some point I want to have a changed outcome, yes? That's the beautiful thing about the law of attraction and spiritual laws in general and using this power for good is I now have agency. I get to choose a new way of being, and it's simply by changing my own belief patterns. None of those outside circumstances, none of those lineages and patterns and habits of thought that were passed down to me can determine my life experience. I can change that. That is one of the most awesome things about metaphysics that I can think of. It gives us our agency back. So get the information. Not to beat yourself up, not to beat anybody else up, no blaming, no judging, so that you can have change. Because that's the name of the game, right? So you do the homework and you work it backwards. And you might have to take it into meditation and prayer. Maybe it's not obvious to you, this path, like how did this get here? That's why I'm saying you may need to free write, you may need to journal, you may need to sit and ask your wisdom, show me the beginning of this. Help me uncover what false belief is going on in me that is helping contribute to this outcome. And then, like I said, it's the removing process. It's the getting it out of the way. And what's lovely about that process is, again, it brings us back to the most powerful part of the manifestation process, which is staying deeply grounded in what is true. And almost every false belief's opposite is the truth. Not having enough is like the common experience. Is that a true belief? What do we know is true about life, the life of the Holy Blessed One? We know abundance is what is true. We know that infinite good is always available and always accessible. That is what is true. So soon as you identify the untruth, the misbelief, pretty much every time, if you say the opposite, you're saying something true. And that's it. That's the undoing process. That's the getting it out of the way process. You got to find it, which can be an uncomfortable process. You got to find the misbelief that is often unconscious. Or it's so obvious, it's something that you might even say all the time. Like, right? One of the things I've been actively changing in my life is using the language, I've got to blah, blah at 5. I've got to do the same. Instead of saying, I am going to be at blah, blah. And that just shifting this idea that got to, this sense of obligation, this sense of duty, this sense of over busy, which is an issue for me. Shifting my language around that, shifting my belief. I don't have to do anything. I am going to this thing because I choose to. I put things on my calendar because I want to. Right? But that was not a conscious reckoning I was dealing with until I allowed myself to become conscious of this narrative that was not working for me. So that's that working the law backwards. I'm having this experience of being way over busy and way overbooked and stressed out about my time and blah, blah, blah. When I work it back, oh, I have all kinds of ideas about obligation and duty. So, what is true is I have the glorious honor of being alive on this planet. That's my only obligation. That's it. Being alive. That's what's true. So now, every time I start looping on obligation and duty and I get to have a new thought. I get to remind myself of what is true. That's it. That's the whole job of getting stuff out of the way. Because it's always going to start in your thinking, in your belief system. Always. So if you're willing to kind of look at a circumstance that you're not enjoying, work it backwards, Find out what it is that you're believing that is untrue. And then get back to what is true. And replace that thought, replace that belief. And then the piece that's fun is you start creating conditions in your life that support that truth. Right? So you start actively engaging in that as truth, this new truth that you are replacing an old untruth with, but you create conditions in your life that support it as true. So let me give you an example. If I'm running out of money before the month is over, before that next paycheck comes, I am now going to actively pay attention to what is going on in my bank account so that I can begin to create the conditions to make it more possible for my finances to flow in a better way. One of the things that's often going on is we walk around at our circumstances and we go, la, 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 I don't know how it's happening, it's just happening and it sucks. But I was just talking to somebody who was working with money stuff a few days ago, and I asked them, I said, so what's your budget? What do you make each month? Oh, I don't know. And yet you want to get conscious about your money. And you can't tell me how much you make a month, and you can't tell me what you spend every month. That is a condition that is in the way of your prosperity. Right? And then you get to get conscious, and this is the creating conditions part. You get to get conscious about spending. Oh, well, what am I spending on? Where is this flow happening that is not quite making it to the end of the month? How can I consciously spend that is in support of my vision? It requires me to actually create the conditions for that. And then we let Spirit take care of the rest. But we got to get conscious, right? Same thing with my time. Now that I discovered I have this whole thing about obligation and duty, I get to now consciously create my calendar based on my vision for my life, rather than on what I used to believe was required of me. So I do block scheduling now. And I put in the things that are delightful and joyous and wonderful, and I am no to the things that are not that. I'm creating the conditions for more joy and delight and awesomeness. Yes? Do you see the usefulness in working it backwards? Considering, again, with all the grace and compassion and kindness for yourself. Because you then have an opportunity to be actively involved, deeply committed to nurturing and growing your vision. Because it is not just the praying, right? We have a super much used phrase in the New Thought movement or the Science of Mind movement, which is treat and move your feet. Which means do the prayer, do the affirmative prayer, do the meditation, do the visioning, do all the things, and act. It requires both. But when you have a fierce yes, and I'm coming back to that fierce yes in week 2, when you have a fierce yes, that is what will sustain you acting. Right? When you know your vision is so clear, you are fierce about it. You have so much yes for this vision that is going to give you the energy to do the budget. Because nobody likes budgets. I know 7 CPAs who like budgets. Right? But that yes, oh my God, this vision has got me on fire. I'm going to go do the budget. I am going to consciously look at my calendar because I am so excited about days full of awesomeness. It'll give you what you need to take the steps. And those steps will come from the vision itself. That vision will tell you, okay, what conditions in your life could support this vision better? What's in the way? Maybe how you're spending your time is in the way. Maybe how you're spending your money is in the way. Maybe how you're spending your relationships is in the way. I want more love. I want more connection. And I hang out with people I don't really like and who are mean to me. That's in the way. That fierce yes is going to give you the gumption to say no to what needs to be said no to. To hang on fiercely to what needs to be said yes to. To set the boundaries that need to be set. To let go of what needs to be let go or who needs to be let go. And it is the toughest part of this work. Which is why all the previous steps are so important. Because when you come into the excavating work, you want to be ready. You want to be juiced up. You want to be on fire. You want to be really good relationship with your pleasure. Because when it pisses you off, as you discover those thoughts, and it will piss you off, it will hurt when you realize what you actually believe about some things. But coming back to the vision of what you want, what you greatly desire, what love has told you is possible. That'll carry you through those moments that are really hard. And you deserve it. You deserve it. So, working the law backwards, working the creative process backwards, that's your homework. And here's exactly what I want you to do. Number one, before you even begin, I want you to write a sign somewhere in your journal, sticky note on the mirror, somewhere where you see it regularly. Do not beat yourself up. Do not blame anyone as I discover. Got it? And then, all you're going to do is when you vision, right? Because by this point, you've got a really clear vision. You know what it is you were trying to manifest in your life. And then I want you to bring that to your mind's eye. Bring that into your consciousness. Really focus on that vision. And then, pretty quickly, right behind it, is going to come a negative Nelly thought. Because that is how we work. You're going to be like, oh my God, I'm so excited about the new love of my life. I cannot wait to meet my new partner. It's going to be so great. And then in the back of your head is going to be this voice like, yeah, that's not going to happen. You can't do that until you lose 10 more pounds, right? There's going to be some BS thought that just comes flying. That's the thought that you work backwards. You pick that one. And you let yourself do the work around, where'd that thought come from? And in the very same moment, you say its opposite. I have to lose 10 pounds until I can meet the love of my life. Okay, that's not true. What is true? What is the very opposite of that? I am perfect as I am right now. Love is ready right now for me, as I am. Yeah? This is the homework. You're going to spend time every day with your vision, with your absolute picture of gloriousness that you are bringing into your life, and then you're going to let negative Nelly go ahead and do her shout outs. And you're going to say the exact opposite of that. And then you're going to make a note in your journal or whatever you do in your voice texts. And you're going to let yourself do the work of removing that barrier. Yeah? All right, let's pray. What I know about the Holy Blessed One, that absolute perfect good that is ever flowing, that is the manifesting principle behind all of life, seen and unseen universes here and now and beyond, that one is never blocking is never a barrier to good. It only knows growing and expanding and expressing greater, greater good and love. And because that is the truth of the entire universe and beyond, I know that that truth is moving in me right now. And that truth itself simply takes a barrier that I have perceived and misbelieved, and it melts it away. The truth will always make a way. Nothing stands in the way of that. So I know that as you say yes to becoming more conscious and aware of what is true, to becoming conscious and aware of what is in the way, that truth knocks it down easy peasy every time. This is how greater good shows up in your life and my life and the world. And I know that you and I are deeply committed, have a fierce yes for more good in the world. As me, as you, as life itself. I let it be with so much gratitude. Thank you, God. And so it is.